Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Champions Podcast with myself, Heather,
James Squires.
and today we have a special guest and somebody that we're so excited to have with us, and that is Kelly Alayna, and she is a Christian singer-songwriter, and we're going to let her introduce herself and tell her story about faith and music. And Kelly, we're so excited to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, where kind of was your faith? Like, have you always had faith, or when did you kind of come to Christ?
So, yes, I remember when I was probably about 5 or 6 years old, and I was sitting in the living room with my family and just asking a whole bunch of questions. And my mom at that point was like, "We need to take you to the preacher and let's talk it through with him." And, so I got saved and got baptized that following Sunday. And so I've always grown up with God, which, sometimes you feel like you should take a step back. Everybody always has these amazing testimonies to share, like when God found them or when they found God or whatever. And I'm like, well, I was little and I've always had God. But at the same time, like that is my testimony because God has protected me from so many things that I could have gotten into as I grew up. But yes, I found God at a very young age.
So, where did you always kind of be into music and write music, or when did that kind of start?
So I was always singing, always. I have videos again of me being really little and singing. I grew up in the church. I was involved in band. We didn't have a choir at my school, but I took piano lessons. I've always played piano, and music just has always been a huge part of my life. And I didn't really start writing music until my senior year of college at Troy University. I took a music industry. I actually have a music industry minor, and my professor had taught a songwriting class, and that's where I kind of got introduced to the structure of songwriting. And so I dabbled a little bit there, but never fully dove headfirst until one day I had a dream. I had a prophetic dream, and I in this dream I was sitting at a conference table, and this person gave me a platter, and when I lifted the lid, it said songwriter. And so I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of cool. Shortly after that, I had prayed for God to send me a song. I was in a duo at the time. We had been singing together. We met at our church's praise team, and I prayed for a song, and God gave it to me pretty much within 24 hours. And it was Take Me Back to Church, and which that release this past February. But I'm so thankful that God gives me the words to say because it always blows my mind whenever a song just it appears out of nowhere. You're like, you sing it and you're like, that didn't exist before. This is so cool. So
Yeah, and obviously I've kind of done my own songwriting a little bit too, and I just find that when it's like it's for you that God puts it on your mind and heart, but at the same time, it's like you feel so strongly that it's a message for someone else. And obviously, like I said, I've gone through several of your songs, and they're just so powerful with the lyrics, and you can tell that where you started, you had a purpose, which funny I said purpose, right? And is you can just tell the songwriting process. It wasn't just some kind of, okay, let me just put this out here to put this out here. It had meaning behind it. And so that's just so awesome. And I think one of my favorites is probably Take Me Back to Church, but I also really like Purpose. And, I've gone through several things in my life with obviously cystic fibrosis and 3 organ transplants. And I do feel like there's some kind of purpose for my story and my pain and all that. So the lyrics to that are just really, really powerful. And you also do TikTok lives where you and your husband play, and that's been really neat to see. And so, kind of, did you feel like before, I guess you started social media, because obviously social media is so powerful,
mhm.
it's been a huge help with getting your music out there now?
It definitely has. And I'm so thankful for TikTok because The other social platforms are good, and it's almost like journaling where you can put your things out there, and it's like a public diary, if you want to call it that. Um, and there are some interactions there, through comments or private messages or different things. But TikTok is such a strong platform once you're able to go live because that's real-time interaction. Like it's literally like standing in the middle of a street and all these people are just passing by. You see these people all the time. They're shouting about Jesus on a street corner. But that's literally what it is. We call window watchers the people that never actually pop into the live, but you see the number count that goes up and some eventually come in. But I'm so thankful to have that platform just to praise, sing worship music, share the songs God gives me in real time, and be able to pray over people, people that come in and say, "Hey, can you pray for me for this?" I mean, without that platform, they might not ever be prayed over. So you just never know. So I'm so thankful for social media.
And I like how even I remember watching one video you did of just encouraging people to just step out there and what does it hurt to just put a video up, and if that one doesn't work, put another video up, and whether it's music or something else, just telling your story, and you just never know where it leads to. And so where did the songwriting process come from? Purpose did, because I know you did a collab for that
Mhm.
song, and which I really like how that came together. It just has such a good beat, melody, and just the lyrics and everything. I think it really, I mean, I don't know the stats, but I'm sure it has done really well. But Take Me Back to Church is a wonderful video too. I mean, just how you put all that together. But I know Champ may not have listened to all of the music yet. I told him about
I haven't yet. I'm gonna be doing this after.
Shame, shame.
it.
And I don't know, Elena, I feel like you've got stuff bubbling up in you now. I can just see kind of the joy that so tell us some of the stories behind some of those songs. I know you told us the one about the collab and the professor with the songwriting course, and then the idea with the worship team that kind of turned into kind of a duo together.
Mhm.
Anything else along those lines?
So it's crazy because I feel like, well, here lately, being a part of the music industry, everybody's all about stay in your lane. What sound are you? What you got to stay in this box, or whatever. And it's easier to market if you have a specific genre and different things like that. And so I struggle with that because I like so many things. Like I love the country sound, but like Purpose, I also love the beats and the rap and the hip hop vibe and like all of that. And I don't want to stay in one lane, I want to experiment with it all. And I feel like if anybody is struggling with that, like I am, the devil loves to cause confusion. And the devil loves to say, well, you're confused about your identity. You need to pick something because, that's what everybody says you should do. And that's not the case. God made you unique. God made me unique. And maybe it is that I'm supposed to dabble in all these different genres, maybe I do put out a country song and I write the sound or I put out the sound for whatever the song calls for. So if the song feels like a rap song or it feels like a hip hop song, I'm not going to force it to be a country song, because God gave me this message maybe to reach somebody who doesn't listen to country. And so that's kind of where I am with that. But Purpose really just came out of nowhere because I had been writing more country or sounding songs. And I almost felt stupid about it when I first wrote it and I didn't want to share it on social media because I'm like, this is not like me. What are people going to think? And then I ended up doing it, and of course everybody was like, this is cool. Like you should write more like this. And then I'm like, I don't know how. I just came. But when I was continuing to write it, I knew it called for a rap because it just felt that way. It just felt right. And I don't rap because I would scare people off if I tried to rap. I'm so like, it's so bad. Maybe one day, maybe I can learn one day. But no, I asked around for suggestions and somebody suggested Jay Woods. And so I'd never met him before. I sent him the song and he immediately was like, yes, I'd love to collab on this, and he wrote the rap and it's perfect. I can't even imagine. And actually the one line in it where I sing Fear's a Liar and he responds back with Fear's a what? Like that has become such a staple. People just comment on my videos, Fear's a what? And I love that so much. But yeah, just listen to God whenever you're putting out music. It doesn't have to be a specific genre. It's whatever God wants.
I love not putting yourself into a box necessarily because I feel like I'm the same way. I love different genres of music, and I can go from listening to Christian to all of a sudden I'm listening to country, and then I'm listening
Yeah.
to some hard rock song. And so I think it actually helps you when you go to say, well, I'm not going to box myself in, because you
Mhm.
have to relate to so many generations. You want to hit the 15-year-olds, but you want to hit the 25-year-olds. You want to hit the 60 and 80-year-olds. And
Right.
I think that's how your music kind of hits all these people, because it's not just doing one thing, for every song. And of course, the younger generation especially probably loves a rap Christian song. So I just think that your skill and your technique for writing the songs is just so amazing, because you're
You.
so much thought into, like you said, you think, okay, this needs to be this type of song. And
Mhm.
talk about take me back to church a little bit, because I'd love to know kind of where that came from, because it's such I mean, just the first part of the first verse, it's like, oh, okay, this is gonna be a song.
Yeah, so I prayed for a song. I was in a duo, Corey and Kelly, for about 8 years, and we had started off just singing cover songs, and we knew that we wanted to release original songs, and so neither one of us had really written songs, and so I prayed, God, we want to start writing our songs. Can you send me a song? And He did, and I just started writing. I started just thinking about how I would feel, if I had gone astray or if I got caught up in life. I mean, I'd say I was pretty young. I mean, I was maybe in my mid 20s, late 20s, something like that. And I had a kid at that point, my oldest daughter. She's 13 now, but she was young. And I thought about my experiences from my church growing up. I grew up in a small little church. It wasn't white and it wasn't on a dirt road, but come to find out later, it was at one point, which was pretty cool. But yeah, I just prayed that God would use the song to speak to somebody who maybe has gotten out of the faith, or maybe feels like they're not good enough to go to church or something like that. So he gave me this song, but interestingly enough, all these years later, now I'm on a solo journey. We separated about 2 years ago, and God has really pulled me out of my comfort zone in that aspect. But He called on me to re-release the song. We released it under Corey and Kelly, and He called me to re-release it. So I released it in February, but my grandmother one day told me, my favorite line in your song is, "So take my hand and lead me home. Take me back to the place where you saved my soul." And initially, as a baby songwriter, when I wrote this song, I was thinking, oh, that makes sense because take me back to church. Like people get saved at church. I mean, they get saved anywhere, but people get saved and baptized at church. That makes sense. And she said that's her favorite line in the song because it's talking about the cross. Take me back to the place where you saved my soul. If you've been out of the faith or if you've been struggling and you feel like you're not worthy or not good enough, well, we want to ask God, take me back to that place so I can feel that the pain that you felt, what you had to go through to save my soul. And so that just blew my mind because I wrote it and I didn't even think about that. And it's neat how when you truly let God write your lyrics, how it can speak in so many different ways to so many different people, because I'm sure that line means something else to somebody else. So yeah, and I try to incorporate different hymns and different songs within this, like that old time religion, give me that old time religion, or the kids singing around the sycamore tree. They singing about Zacchaeus or Amazing Grace, and so I tried to put those little nuggets in there, that kind of inspired the chorus.
I'm sitting here, so when we jump off of this interview, I'm gonna go back and listen to it. As you were talking about the second part, I was like, all right, I'm tired of hearing about it. I'm just gonna go and get it right now. And but what do you think, other than the kind of shoving in a box sort of thing that you were talking about earlier? What do
Mhm.
you think is the other thing that's the hardest about being in the music industry? Just like and I'm not just picking on the music industry because you're sitting in front of me,
Right.
but there's every industry of every sort of profession or professional career that you do.
Mhm.
There are those places where you have to make kind of, I don't want to say a name for yourself, but you have to kind of put your stamp of what the
Yes.
Lord has done in you. with whether it's pastoral ministry, singer-songwriting, writing books. So what do you think has been the other thing that's kind of just that you just said, okay, I'm not going to be a part of this, but I'm going to make my name and not so much for the namesake, but just so that people know that I'm authentic and real and true.
Gosh, I would say the hardest part about being a part of this music industry is putting out the content. I mean, as an indie artist, I don't have a team. I don't have anybody helping push my music out there. Whereas labels, they have all this money to spend on recording music, pumping out content, pushing out to radio, promoting radio. I mean, radio promotion can cost anywhere between $2,000 to $10,000 per month. And it's just crazy. And I send my songs to radio still, even now, even though I don't have a team. And I just pray that God does whatever God needs to do with that. And there are some awesome radio stations that do play my music. I'm so appreciative of that. But it's just being able to prove yourself without a team, truly letting God be your manager, letting God take that lead. And whether it's, doing things in the Christian music industry or the country music industry or whatever, I say yes to every opportunity that comes my way. And wherever that leads, it always seems to be like puzzle pieces. This unlocks this, which unlocks this, and it's just, and also you kind of struggle a little bit with um, making money. If it's truly a Christian industry, why should I be making money? But also, you need money to be able to put God's music out there. You know what I mean? So I'm sure I've seen a lot of Christian artists struggle with that very thing. But like for me, when I go to churches, all I ask for is a love offering. All I ask for is you just pay my way there. I need a place to stay. I will lead worship. I will sing for you, for a love offering, just to be able to pay the bills or just to be able to put music out there. And ultimately, that is my goal. Like I'm not trying to be famous. I'm not trying to do all this stuff. I just want to be able to, when God gives me a song, be able to put it out there. It costs me, honestly, a little over $3,000 per song. That's just a song. That's not an album. That's nothing. That's just a song. And so my goal is just to be able to pay for that without having to worry about where that's going to come from or how I'm going to do that. Yeah. And then just be able to pay for things or normal life. I do this full time. This is my full-time job right now. I'm so thankful that our situation has allowed that. But there's so many things there's so many roadblocks, but at the end of the day, if God's going to have something to do with it, he's going to do it regardless of whatever roadblocks are there.
Yeah.
So, Heather, I want to continue on this kind of journey that we're on because I hear you talk about the joy of being able to do that. And it's not about the fame, it's not about the fortune, obviously. But then you talk about the struggles in the midst of it. So, and a lot of our stories here recently have been around struggle and difficulty. What do you think has been the hardest of seasons? Do you see the brightest of light? I mean that may be a kind of a double negative, but in those seasons, where have you been able to find hope, and what's kind of looking back on some of those more difficult areas and difficult times when things may not have been going as smoothly as you would have hoped?
Hmm.
What is kind of your process of trying to find hope even when life throws in the dishes?
That's a really good question. Because I struggle with the highs and the lows, and I talk to other artists, they do the same, and I'm sure you do too, Heather. But the highs and the lows are so hard because the highs are just so great. Like you feel on top of the world, like you finally made a breakthrough, you're gonna conquer this. And then the lows, it's like everybody hates me. I'm gonna go apply for a job at McDonald's now and just throw in the towel. But that's how I feel. And so I always, if I ever feel that way, then I have to remind myself that Satan is working extra hard because he's trying to stop me. He's trying to say, you're gonna not good enough. Like nothing's ever gonna come from this. You're wasting money on this project. You're doing this. And so usually I will get up and I'll do something. I'll try to write a song or I'll make a post or I'll do a video or read the Bible or whatever it is. And a lot of times my followers, encourage me so much. And I will get a random message from somebody if I'm feeling terrible about myself when it relates to my music. And they'll say, I'll get a message from somebody telling me how much my music has meant to them. And I'll just tell them back, you just encouraged me so much. But God always shows up, even in those lows. And I'll just pray, God, send me a glimmer of hope to keep going. Like I just need an energy boost. So it really is a mental thing, and you've got to have that armor of God on to be able to push past those attacks, because that's really what they are. They're attacks. If you're doing something for God, no matter what field of work you're in, it could be just being a doctor, like, or being a CEO somewhere. You're gonna have those attacks and you're gonna have those highs and lows, but you just have to remind yourself why you're doing this, because God has called you for a purpose. And through those trials and through those storms, what are you learning from it that you can take to the next level? So
And
And
you have connections, whether it's connections with other songwriters or just like you said, getting a message. God is just working through every avenue there
Mhm.
to get to your heart and to your mind and to encourage you, even though you think you're encouraging other people in return,
Yeah.
sending a message back to you and saying, hey, keep going. You're doing what you're supposed to be, doing. This is what I have meant for you.
I'm so thankful. So thankful for everyone who just wants to be a part of this journey, who follows me on social media or, sends messages or texts or whatever it is. It means so much to me. So I'm thankful.
well, I just see the joy that just seems like it oozes from you. What would it mean to you if somebody came up to you and said, Elena, what does it mean to be a champion? What does it mean for you to be a champion in an industry that's, as far as I've heard from folks that I talk to in this kind of industry, they're like it sometimes can be the dog eat dog world where you're
Mhm.
trying again going back to the staple of how can you fit that mold? What's different about you? And so what does it mean for you in your line of work in your story to be a champion in this field, in this era, in this day and time? I mean, what does that mean to you, and what does that look like for you?
So I feel like God has called me to kind of be a voice for those who may not know how they're going to do it. So, like the other indie artists who may not understand how to make this work, because a lot of times people in the industry will make it look like, well, you need a label or you need a team or you need this or you need that. But no, if you can learn to do things yourself, you can totally do it. Like, there's so many resources out there. Canva, if you want to design graphics for yourself, album artwork or whatever. GarageBand is one of the easiest forms of learning how to produce your own music. I use Logic. That's like the next level step. So once you kind of learned GarageBand, you can move on to that next level. Or even radio promotion. I've done so much research on how to get my song out there. What do the labels use? And that's what I say. What do the labels use? How do they do this? Because I can do this myself. I don't need somebody to do it for me. And not to gatekeep, there's so many people out there who, you have these young artists coming up and they'll message somebody, how did you do this? Or who do I need to talk to make this happen? And there's lots of people who'll say, well, I can't help you with this, try to figure it out yourself or something. Like, that's what I've heard that people actually say. And I just can't wrap my brain around that, because if we're all in the kingdom of heaven and we're all trying to work together to accomplish the same thing, why would you gatekeep? Why wouldn't you just help somebody else? And so I just feel like God has put me in a position because I am competitive. I am not a
I can
quitter.
tell. I love it. I can tell.
I played sports my whole life. So I'm one of those who I will barrel through. And if I don't know the answer, I will Google it. I will chat GPT it. Like, I
There
will
you
message
go.
somebody, whatever it takes, I will find the answer. And if you want to know what that answer is, send me a message. I'll let you know what I think the answer is. And then you can do with it what you want to do with it. But yeah, I love that. I love being able to help other artists who want to do the same thing. So.
And I think
Go
talk
ahead.
Lodge Band, and that's actually how I do a lot of my stuff. And you talked about you did so much research. I did the exact same thing. I was like, I don't need to pay these people. I can figure this thing out myself.
Yeah.
I even have a good friend that's a music teacher. She went to college for music production, and she kind of gave me some pointers on stuff. And so I have way too much stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm thinking I'm pulling this off myself, and it's like an extra reward to yourself to know, hey, I did this myself. Like when you
Mhm.
back to it, you're like, I really did that, and I mean, it just makes you so proud about it, and know that
Yeah.
the matter of it is music is expensive, and a lot of people don't have the funds to, pay for the studio, pay for the musicians, pay for the copyright, pay. I mean, it's just so much money.
And I want to share a bit of encouragement with that too. I know how to play piano. I am trying to teach myself how to play guitar. It's a process, but I have played piano my whole life. And so if I am in between being able to fund a really big song, like there's a song I want to get $3,000 paid for or whatever, in between that, I want to keep putting out music because that's how people keep discovering you. And so I'll just put out a piano and a voice version that I've produced myself out there, and people love it just as much. Like it'll still get the streams, it'll still get the shares, I'll still get the messages about how God spoke to them through that song. So don't be scared or whatever to put out simple stripped back acoustic versions because people still love that. I played at a major Christian music festival. It was One Fest in Cadott, Wisconsin. And all I really had out there, I had one studio produced song and the rest were my own, like just stripped back versions. And it didn't matter because people did their research and they were like, I can't wait to hear this song. I can't wait to hear. And I'm like, it was just a piano song. And they were like, I don't care. It's great. So don't, people want to hear what they want to hear. And if God's in it, it doesn't matter how big of a production it is because he's going to bless it regardless.
That's great advice. It really is.
I like that right there. This is like I was thinking before we jumped on this interview, I was thinking to myself, I really want to like hope this is so good because like I really want to pump it this week. And like you come in and you're just like smiling up a storm and I'm like, either she's gonna scare the living daylights out of me or this is gonna be really good. And I can see just the fire and the oozing of wisdom and grace and joy. And so
Thank you.
thank you for that. Thank you. That's good. That's good stuff right there.
I
Oh,
connected to you on when I first found you as, and not to say negative things about other people, but sometimes you'll listen and you kind of feel like, are they really a genuine person like behind the screen?
yeah.
But you can just tell you really are, like with all your content you post, you can kind of say like, okay, I could be friends with her. Like
I love that.
she's genuine, but she's really a Christian. She's not putting on for the camera. She's
Yes.
being honest about her music. I mean, you even post videos saying like, "Hey, do y'all like this?" You're not just assuming somebody likes it. And so I just, like Champ says, you just have such a great personality, but just a joy in you about life and your.
Gosh.
I
I
really,
Well,
appreciate that so much because that's all I strive for is just to be authentic because in a fake world, which is really what it is, you have to really use your discernment. And so I pray all the time, God, just let me be authentic from across the screen. So thank you.
if you could speak to anybody and say like, what is one thing that you would tell your, I guess, 16-year-old self about trying, because I've heard you say purpose, I don't know how many times.
Mhm.
What would you say is the way to not necessarily find, because I struggle with the idea of purpose, because I don't think there's like one thing that only you're called to do that
Right.
nobody else can do it better, but that, like you said, we're all in this together. And so, what would you wish that somebody would have said to you at that point in life?
Um, well, I knew when I was about 16 that I wanted to be a singer, and I didn't know what that looked like, and I didn't know the process to get there. And I was from a small little town in the middle of nowhere, Georgia, and I didn't know how,
Georgia!
yeah, I didn't know how that was gonna work. And so I thought I wanted to be a band director. And so I went to college in Troy, Alabama to be a band director. And after my first music theory class, I said, no, I want none of that. I don't want to do that anymore. I do not like that. And so I switched it actually to graphic design. And that's where I learned how to do my own content, like video design, graphic design, that sort of thing. But I always thought that I wanted to work in a marketing agency and do that sort of thing. And there's been so many seasons in my life that didn't make sense to me at the time, but looking back, I see how God used this season to get to this season, to get to this season. And that's kind of where your purpose comes from because your purpose may change. Like your purpose is whatever season you're in currently. And so I was a music teacher for 3 years. I taught lower elementary kids music. And it was the best thing in the world. Like we played all day. I taught them how to play instruments, like little classroom instruments. I taught them the joy of music and how to dance without caring if anybody looks at you a certain way, or just feel it, how to feel it. And just because in that season I was really good at it, I knew that was not what I was going to do for the long haul. I did not want to be a teacher forever. I wasn't in love with the profession. I was in love with the activity of it and to reach these little kids, wasn't in love with the profession of it. But looking back and seeing how God used me in that season to get to the next season. You know what I mean? So don't be discouraged about, what is my purpose? How can I only be called for this one particular thing that nobody else can do? Well, it is your unique testimony and you have a unique testimony that this person over here doesn't have. So don't look at it as the overall picture of this particular skill set or whatever. It's your testimony that makes it unique and makes your purpose unique. So
I
Well,
love,
that
I could just listen to hear you talk all day.
listen, Heather, I got a challenge for you. This
Yeah,
girl was so good, you better make sure that title for this episode is Jam Up, because she was jam up. No, no, no pressure, no pressure whatsoever. Just a little bit. There you go.
I want I want you to make sure you share like how can, because obviously I know, but everyone else that listens to this, how can they find you or how could they like possibly book you for an event? Do you want to share that information?
Absolutely. So my social handle is Kelly Alayna Music. My website is kellyalayna.com. And so either way, I respond very quickly to anything on social media, emails. You can book me through my website, send me a private message through my socials. And then my music's on all streaming platforms. You can listen to it anywhere you stream music.
Love that. Love that.
I have one final question, and that is there a favorite Bible verse that you have?
Man, I knew that you were going to ask
Oh,
that, and I was
God.
even racking my brain. I
That's
was like,
terrible. But I love
I
it.
know. I was like, if she's going to ask me that, well, what am I going to say? You know what? There is not one specific Bible verse that I go back to. It's not. It really changes with a song, and it's so funny how God uses songs to make me learn the Bible, like make me learn the Bible because it's really hard for me to sit down and just read the Bible. Like I do have time in the mornings and I try to do a devotional and I try to have that time with God. But he really speaks to me when I write the music because I'm like, okay, if somebody is struggling with this issue, what Bible verse would they go back to? And then I may look that up and then write the song around that Bible verse. So right now with purpose, I love the Esther 4:14 and I love the I can't even think of what it is right now. Oh my gosh, I just went a blank. But the He'll make a way in the wilderness. It's in Isaiah. I can't think of the
Oh,
number.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, that one. And streams in the
Yeah.
desert, that
Yep.
verse. Because that's really my life right now. Like it just seems so hard to break through these walls. And God, what's my breakthrough? But I just have to remember, no, you're gonna make a way in the wilderness, even when I don't see a way. And I'm created for this moment. Like you've designed me, you've put me in this place and you're going to make a way. So I'm just going to trust. I'm going to have the gift of faith and I just know that it's going to happen. So
Well,
it
thank you
changes.
so much for even doing this episode because I think me and Champ both are just like overjoyed with having you on, and I'm going to give Champ the honors of closing this one out today. And
Listen,
I don't
I
think
don't even know if you want me to do that because I'm sitting here with the iPad in my hand going, all right, Spotify commercial, can you please hurry up? Because I really need to listen to this.
Oh,
And so I just want to say thank you because I think there was something real about this. You are a beautiful person and you're a
thank
beautiful person
you.
inside and out. And I just hope then when people look at this and listen to this episode, my prayer for this one, and I specifically pray over each one, but I think my prayer for this one is that people see the beauty and that they wrestle with the beauty and the authenticity of it because I think that's music.
Yeah.
Music is written in both the seasons of joy and the seasons of difficulty. I mean, you look at hymnology. You look at the way the hymns were written in the early church. You look at the way people came, even with the contemporary stuff, and how they have written those. So I think my prayer, and for for Alayna, but for all of us, is just to write the melody and then allow the Lord to give you the voice to sing it and watch what
You
happens.
know, you're not the first person that said that. Somebody else sent me a message with that a couple of days ago that said the same thing. Just write, just play and let God speak through you and let him do the words. I love that. That's awesome.
There we go. All
Confirmation.
right. Well, with that, we thank you for joining us today. This one was so much fun. I know I was like jacked up on steroids. I promise I didn't take steroids. I did have a Coke, but it's fine. But thank you for joining us today, and we hope that you will join us next week for our next episode. Thank you so much for doing this for us, and we just hope
Check
that
out
somebody
Kelly Alayna
learn.
music.
There you
Thank
go.
you.